Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
All right, Ethan, how are you?
Pete, I am great. And as you know, this is Cue the Siren Emergency Films and Stuff midweek episode.
Oh, well, that's an air horn, but still.
That's an air horn? It will have to do. It will have to do.
Exactly.
Things are very tense in Hollywood between the Los Angeles Lakers and their Hall of Fame alumni and HBO, which apparently has no lawyers, no compliance officers, no risk officers.
No fact checkers. No nothing.
Maybe no fact checkers. Possibly is being operated by Clippers fans or Boston Celtics fans, anyone other than Lakers fans.
Yeah, or it could just be, Frank Vogel in disguise coming out after he got done dirty by the Lakers organization.
Yeah. But I have to say, this world is sometimes so risk averse that when something honest and, pushes the envelope, makes its way through all the censors by accident or otherwise, it's kind of refreshing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I know how. I think the word that they're really putting a lot of weight on in Hollywood is dramatization.
Yes.
I think that is carrying a lot of the burden for a lot of this controversy.
And so let's frame what this emergency episode is about. We've been going episode by episode reviewing Winning Time, which is on HBO Max, and it's about the Los Angeles Lakers and when their deceased owner, Dr. Jerry Buss, bought the Lakers, drafted Magic Johnson in 1979, and it shows how this team kind of came together around Magic, around Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and some other folks in the early 80s.
The so-called Showtime era of the Lakers.
The so-called Showtime era. And you and I have been loving this show, or I've been loving it. You've been liking it, hard liking it. But one of the things we've always been saying, and I guess we are a little bit ahead of our time, is they make some of the folks look bad, right? And we were just kind of saying, like, who's portrayed well, who's portrayed not well. And it was just kind of, it was podcast fodder for us. And now someone has rung the bell and it's become possibly a legal issue, a defamation issue. It's been escalated into a different level, right?
Yeah. I think we are now beyond the realms of, let's say, criticism, right? Which is, I don't like it because of XYZ reasons. I think now we're in the realm of, hey, guys, you need to get your act together because you are now borderline, saying inflammatory stuff and defaming me and potentially, I don't remember what the difference is, but, there could be libel issues here, definitely defamatory.
That's written.
Oh, right. Okay. So slander, there's a lot of, I'm not saying there are definitely going to be legal ramifications because, again, I believe ultimately HBO, which has a successful history, let's say, of legal defenses, especially with, the John Oliver show, for example, last week tonight.
They're not afraid of mail.
Correct.
Let's say.
Correct.
Yeah.
They'll take it on. Whether it's a red envelope or a brown envelope or a white envelope, they're opening it all with no fear.
Can I make a few observations? I love to make observations. Yes, I'd love it. Please. Right? The first is that possibly this is good for HBO. If you haven't seen this show, and you've kind of been like, I'll catch it later. And suddenly on ESPN.com, on SportsIllustrated.com, in your Twitter feed, in wherever, the water cooler talk, is now how this show is like damaging Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Jerry West. Suddenly, you're probably a lot more interested to check this out,
Totally.
especially if you're worried that those episodes are going to be like pulled or, not available anymore. This might be good for HBO, right?
Oh, totally. That old adage, all news is good news, even if it's bad news,
All publicity is good publicity, right?
That's the one. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's what I think this is. I think this is ultimately, I imagine it's going to be a boon for people who already have HBO Max.
Totally.
And who were just like, well, I wasn't checking it out, or I wasn't super bothered about checking it out. I was thinking I'll probably binge it over the summer when I've got a free weekend or so.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden everyone, or certainly anyone in the US who has any kind of tie or any kind of emotional attachment to basketball, whether it's, and it's not even, it's now gotten to the point where I think it's beyond the fact that it's the Lakers or that it's the Celtics.
Yes.
I think it's just a basketball issue, right? Where they're just like, wait a minute, I've heard of Pat Riley. Wait a minute, I've heard of Magic Johnson. These guys are now centered or in the middle of this rivalry, or not rivalry, but like controversy. I need to see what's going on.
Yeah. And, it's playoff basketball time.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that.
In the NBA. So I mean, the timing is actually very good, right? Everyone's got peak interest in basketball right now. You know what else they call that? Not only is all publicity good publicity, they call that the Streisand effect. Have you heard of that?
Vaguely, but I don't know what it is.
So Barbara Streisand, back when she was A Star Is Born, right?
Right.
Apparently someone, I'm going to get this wrong. Maybe a listener will correct me, but I think it was like the architect of her house, somehow like published the designs. I mean, there's no such thing as online, but it was like in a tabloid or something, right? And she sued, for that to be kept private. And it was the lawsuit that actually brought more attention to her house than if she just would have kind of like ignored it and let it go, right? Yeah. So it's called the Streisand effect because then someone read in the newspaper, hey, Barbara Streisand is suing this newspaper so that, the design or the plans or the photographs of her house don't be made public. And everyone's like, hey, I've got to go buy that magazine. I want to see her house. I didn't know that's available, right? So she actually created her own problem by trying to keep her problem private. And that's a little bit it's not clear if Jerry West leaked this or Kareem, whoever it is, leaked this to the press or HBO leaked it to the press, right? Because if you think about the process, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is sitting at home one day, right? And he's watching HBO Max and he sees Winning Time. He's like, hey, that show is portraying me as a big jerk. I'm not happy. I'm going to call my lawyer. I'm going to tell my lawyer to write HBO a letter. I don't know what this letter says. Saying what? Hey, apologize to Kareem or don't make any more episodes in season 2 portraying him as a jerk. Somehow, news of this got to, like the sports websites, right? Was it Kareem's lawyer that leaked it saying, hey, just so you know, my client's not happy about being portrayed like this? Or is it HBO who leaked it saying, hey, this is kind of funny. This guy's not happy. Watch our episodes. So someone leaked it to someone, right? It may not have been only those two parties, but somebody. And now it's a brouhaha. So it was first Kareem saying, and we can talk about this separately, how he was portrayed. He doesn't like it. And then Jerry West came out swinging as well and basically said the same thing. Like, he's not this hot-headed, vile, alcoholic
I mean,
person, right?
I think Magic was the first when it was asked, I think before, when the show started coming out, because remember, there's a second Magic Johnson focused documentary coming out as well.
No way.
It's already out. Something
really?
Like that. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And that's, I think, more a traditional documentary, not like winning, not like Last Dance. I think it's more of a stereotypical documentary style thing, right? And when I say that, I mean, it can be in whatever format it is, but it's not a dramatization.
Okay.
Right? And so people were wondering, how much influence and how much of a role did he play in either of these shows? And apparently he didn't really have any input in either of them.
Okay.
And he wasn't particularly keen on either of them. That's not to say he liked it or didn't like it. I was just under the impression of all the people who have spoken out either for or against this show from the Lakers organization, he was the one that had the most neutral response, which was when they asked him, "Are you interested in watching this?" He said no. And I think it's because he must have seen, for two reasons. One, I think he must have had the foresight to understand that because it's a dramatization, he's not going to come out of this smelling like roses. He's not going to look great. He's not going to look bad. But, some dirty laundry is definitely going to come out of this. And especially because it's a dramatization, a lot more of it is going to be salacious than he would like.
Yeah.
And the second thing
Great word.
Right. And I think the second thing is that Magic Johnson also, I think, has built a reputation post-basketball of being a relatively neutral guy.
Yeah.
He's not been a super politically active figure.
Yeah.
He's not been a super controversial figure. He's not been, a sportscaster. He's not made any, moves in the sports arenas. He's not gone on to commentate for games with ESPN or with NBC or done any color commentary. He's been more focused on just himself and I guess his business empire, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that way he's been relatively neutral. And I would have said the same thing about Kareem up until maybe the last 5 or 10 years, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar also, not to say that he had kind of rode off into the sunset, but he was quiet. He was neutral. If someone asked him his opinion of the Lakers, he gave a frank assessment, which he had every right to because he was a Lakers guy through and through.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't really stick his neck out otherwise. He didn't give you opinions on things that nobody really cared to ask him about before.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a change from now. And likewise, Jerry West, to be very frank, I know I'm not very involved in the sports community or as a fan, but even before this show, I didn't really hear much about Jerry West, right? You knew of Jerry West, you knew of the legend.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of so you and I are of the age that we can remember Magic Johnson a little bit. Yeah. And we had some idea of him, I can't remember ever seeing him interviewed, but I can remember reading Sports Illustrated and some articles about him.
Exactly.
I had something in my mind about him, right? For Jerry West, I don't know him as anything other than a grandfather-aged executive of a bunch of NBA teams. I don't know him anything as a player or a coach. So when I see Winning Time, I have to say, however they portray him, I kind of buy into it. I don't have any other reference point.
Yeah, there's no context. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any other context to say, wow, I'm surprised. I didn't think that he had such a temper, or ha ha ha, they're really exaggerating his temper. For all I know, when I see him sitting in his tighty whities on his living room floor, moaning about whether or not he should coach another year, maybe that's what he was like. So I can see Jerry West saying, hey, this is really damaging to me, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I very much agree. So actually, you know what? You raise a good point. Maybe before we dive into the individual things, shall we just give a very quick summary as to the last episode?
Yes.
Talk about it, and then we can transition into what our opinions are on each of the individual controversy guys.
So we're on
episode 7.
Episode 7, titled Invisible Man.
Yep.
And this is, I guess, the start of really focusing on the court Lakers basketball. Exactly. And it shows that after Coach Ramsey had his biking accident, how Paul Westhead took over, and the team kind of struggled. It portrays, actually, Paul Westhead should be writing a letter. It portrays him as very insecure, unsure of himself, no confidence, no direction,
and a liar and a
no
manipulator.
real basketball skills, maybe a little bit racist. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nothing good from him at all. It shows the Lakers really struggling to the extent that they're thinking of bringing in a gent named Elgin Baylor, who used to be a Lakers player, and replacing Paul Westhead kind of at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
They decide not to do this. They think maybe Coach Ramsey's going to get better. The real tipping point is the Lakers travel to Boston to play the Celtics, right? Kind of their rivalry game. The Celtics are known as now the best team in the league. Larry Bird, right? Their hotshot rookie is setting the league on fire. And this is a real, kind of a real test of where the Lakers are. And the implication is if the Lakers lose, they're going to fire their coach, Paul Westhead, and replace him. And if the Lakers win, then maybe this is a springboard for them to, realize all their potential. And of course, as these things go, it's a very dramatic back and forth game. Coach Riley gets himself kicked out to try to, motivate everybody, and the Lakers win it kind of like at the last second. And then we're kind of left with the impression that this is now the start of something really special, right? Everyone's kind of found their footing. They've put all their nonsense behind, and they've got a plan going forward.
Or so we hope. Right? I think so. Great summary. I think what's interesting is that we're starting to see as you rightly have said, we're starting to see the pieces come together of the team, but we're also starting to see the transition in the personalities of the players and of the coaching staff, right?
Yeah.
So there was that great scene. First of all, we see Riley shave off his hippie mustache, right? And when he looks up in the mirror, you see him as the old man Riley that we know today. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I just mean that, as an older Riley, right? Who's got his slicked back hair, who doesn't have like a carefree tousled hair, that's silver. And, he looks like a killer, right? In the mirror. Like he's got an intensity in those eyes, right? And credit to Adrian Brody, that scene where he's tossing around Paul Westhead, and really you can see a little bit of that intensity of the Riley that we know today, right? And you can see that, man, you have put me in a position that is not good because you've lied to me. You knew that this wasn't good, and that this could potentially be the end of my career, which just started. And even though I hate commentating, I don't want to have no job either.
Yeah. So right? Let's put the sidebar there. The sidebar is that Pat Riley was a backup, or the second announcer, right? The color guy to Chick Hearn. Wasn't really loving that role, but he was happy to be employed back with the team, doing something out of the house.
Yeah.
Paul Westhead says, "Hey, I need an assistant coach. Come back me up." And Pat Riley's like, "Yeah, but like, what's going to happen at the end of the year? Then you're going to go back to being the assistant. I'll be out." And Westhead said, "No, don't worry. Coach Ramsey will bring you on. This is long term."
Yeah, McKinney. McKinney's. He convinces Riley that McKinney will keep him on, right?
Right. And that's the dishonest part, which is there's no basis for saying this at all. And in fact, kind of the opposite, which is Westhead doesn't explain that his job is very, very tenuous, could be lost any day. And then Riley would be out of that job and obviously not able to go back to being an announcer. So
literally the next 3 or 4 games on this road trip determine the future of the rest of the season for the coaching staff. Right.
Really interesting episode, though. I mean, really interesting episode in terms of, this is, I think, what I like, even though it's a dramatization, it shows you that historically, you look back at 1979 and the Lakers were the world champions. You don't see that at the beginning of that season, they started strong. Their coach was injured. They had a dip. And at that dip, things could have gone in, it could have continued to spiral downward, right? And they may not have been the champions had they not kind of got their act together against Boston in this really crucial game.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is, that was, as you rightly said, that was pretty much the end of the episode. The episode was very basketball heavy, right?
Yeah.
It was a little bit about the transition of some people. The only other transition that you really see, and maybe not a full transition, but at least the birth of an idea, was when Kareem sees Magic's home life and that how he's always smiling, how he's always the center of the attention, how he always has this drive to make everyone love him, right?
Yeah.
And Magic doing everything that he can to make sure that everyone likes him, and then he absolutely eats shit at that press conference, right?
Yeah.
Where everyone is fawning over Larry Bird, and despite the fact that Magic is clearly the more charismatic one, no one gives a damn about him, and everyone basically can't stand Magic Johnson, right? And it's Kareem who turns him around, sits him down, and says, listen, not everyone in this league is going to like you, and you have to be okay with that. And not just okay with that, you have to work around that to make sure that if they don't like you, they don't like you for the right reasons. Or at least that's my take. Mm-hmm. And that reason is because you're better than them and because we beat them, right? And if that means that we have silence in the stadium, remember, silence means power.
So that's a very, very good exposition. And I think Kareem is portrayed in that scene or that episode. I think Kareem should not have any issues with how he's portrayed. He's
very
portrayed
positively.
As very wise, very positive. But you mentioned something about that Bird Magic Johnson press conference. And if you go to when you look at IMDb, there's a breakdown of each episode, and the photo of that episode shows Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, at that fictitious press conference. I don't know if that happened or not. I've never seen a press conference where both dudes are at it, but whatever. It was the 80s. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
There's really it's not even like a racist undertone. It's pretty clear that Larry Bird is portrayed as this tobacco chewing hick that people like because he's white. And even if you look at that still photo, Larry Bird has like a camouflage hat on, some type of orange life preserver looking vest, and a t-shirt. Magic Johnson has a sweater with a white collar poking out from underneath. And the implication is, intentional or otherwise, the white hick gets more love than the charismatic, very gentlemanly speaking black guy.
Yeah.
It's pretty bold out there.
Yeah, and I would go further and say it's not even an undertone. I think it's an overtone.
Yeah,
right? And
I think it's an overtone.
This is very much the stigma that Boston as a city has.
Yeah.
Right? In all of sports, you ask any sports fan of any sport, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, whether it's ice hockey, it doesn't matter. Every sports team that's based out of Boston, the one rallying cry every professional sports person has against that against that city is that its fans are all a bunch of racists, right? And by the way, that was true. Whether that's true or not is not even relevant. The point is that's something that's been leveled against the city, not for the 70s during the Lakers showtime, but forever. Like, even when I was in university and when I was in the U.S., I was told outright, listen, if you go to Boston and you go, because I used to be a baseball fan, and if you're going to go see a game and watch the Red Sox, if you have anything that's not even close to Red Sox related, they're going to lynch you, right? It's just, and we're in the 2000s, right? We're not we're in the 21st century. We're not talking about like the 19th century here.
Welcome to the 21st. So I think that if we're keeping track of the complaints that HBO is collecting, now the city of Boston has sent a cease and desist letter saying, "Hey, don't portray us so badly."
again, and no disrespect to Boston, and I sincerely hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I imagine that there are Boston sports fans out there who would wear that with a badge of pride, with pride.
Yeah.
So, in any case.
So should we go through let's pretend that we're arbitrators. Yeah?
Okay.
And we're arbitrating the case of everyone who's ever been depicted in Winning Time versus HBO Productions. Let's go through and let's see who's got a legitimate case for their reputation being muddied, right?
So perhaps, and again, because I don't know. Let's start. Red Auerbach.
Red Auerbach. Does he have a case or not a case?
I think he might have a case, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely...
I don't know him enough to know what his personality was like, but it seemed like it's a bit dark, right? To send them a vegetable and be like, "Huh?" It's like your coach.
Yeah, I mean, I mean? Like, so so what's your verdict? Do you think that he's portrayed unfairly or negatively?
No, that my point is not that it's my point with someone like Red Auerbach, because I don't know him, and you pointed out, because this is the first time I'm seeing him in something like this, I automatically believe that.
I agree. I also believe it. I have to say, I think there's a difference between someone being portrayed in an unflattering way versus someone being portrayed in an untrue way. So I would say that Red Auerbach is definitely not portrayed as this warm grandfather, cuddly, huggy bear. But if he were alive, he'd probably be like, "Nah, yeah, that's about right. I was a tough son of a bitch."
In which case, fair enough.
Yeah. I don't think he really has a complaint, or if he does, it's an unfair complaint.
Yeah. Yeah. What about the original owner of the Lakers?
I think he's portrayed very negatively. I have no idea, none whatsoever, whether that even bears a peppercorn of truth to it. But absolutely, he is portrayed as racist, short-term thinker, greedy, misogynist. Is that the same as sexist? It may be. I'll add that. I mean, I don't think apart from him being wealthy, I don't think that there is any redeeming quality about him whatsoever in the way that he's portrayed.
So before we continue, let me just say that one of the other things I did was because of this episode, unlike any of the other episodes, it was because of this episode and then the controversy that came out, whether it was because of this episode or whether it was just timed that way.
Yeah.
I started doing a little bit of my own digging into the real, the so-called real.
It's our new segment.
Of some of these characters.
Pete goes digging. Pete goes digging.
From what I've read, and this is, very quick, down and dirty research. This is not in depth in any way, shape, or form, and that's my caveat to cover my own self. And this podcast. But apparently, what was the guy's name? Kent Cook.
Jack Kent
Cook. He was actually a decent guy who actually tried to help Buss. And he stayed along after the team was sold through the drafting process.
There's nothing worse than being a good guy portrayed as a jerk. That is double stomach punch, right?
So he apparently stuck around. He was helping with the coaching transition. He was helping. Yeah, you know how in this show he was, the moment the check cleared, he was gone.
Yeah.
Apparently that's not the case.
Remember when he had that lunch with Magic Johnson and he served some type of fish that even I've never heard of that fish, and he's so condescending, right?
Yeah. This is what us real people eat, right?
So if that's true, that is terrible. That is really terrible.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. So that, again, we're not passing any judgment because we can't correctly know these people's personality. But I think he got done dirty. Jerry West, I mean, he's one of the loudest voices even today
Is he
arguing
done
against
dirty?
the show, right?
Is he? No, but oh yeah, sorry, Jerry West. Yeah, so Jerry West, I think again, I have no idea, none,
Exactly,
if he's got any type of temper problem or what. But I agree, absolutely, he is not portrayed in a positive light at all. Apart
Paul
from the fact,
Westhead.
not at all. I think Paul Westhead's actually worse than Jerry West. Jerry West at least is competent and has a direction. You know, like he's like, hey, I'm intense. I want to win. I know what to do. He's competent. He may be over emotional and not able to kind of control himself, but he always at least has the best interest of the organization in mind.
Right, and he knows his limits, so he was like, listen, I can't coach this team to get that thing. We got to get somebody else, right?
Paul Westhead, is seemingly totally incompetent English teacher from LaSalle University, doesn't belong whatsoever in professional sports, according to this show, right?
Right, and here's the kicker. So Paul Westhead was actually apparently very good. He was liked from the beginning and from the outset. From the first game, they actually won a few of those road games. So, like, they showed how, you know how they showed them losing at Detroit, etc. The Lakers actually won those games. They actually won those games. He actually went out of his way after that first game where McKinney is out and he takes over. He says, I want to make it very clear to all of you, this is Jack McKinney's team. And even if we go 71-0 for the rest of the season, this is Jack McKinney's team. There will be variations, but there will not be any changes. If we win, we win because of Jack McKinney, not because of me. Like, he went out of his way to go and say, hey, I'm taking responsibility while he's gone, but don't forget, he's the one who's getting us to where we're going. So it showed him as fiercely loyal in real life and apparently very capable. Which, I mean, the first 7 episodes of the show has not shown him as that at all.
No. Unless it changes dramatically in the coming episodes, he seems entirely inept to be any type of coach. Yeah.
To be very frank, I feel like the damage is done, right? Like, we've only seen 7 episodes, and he was my number one guy who I was just like, if there's anyone who has to go, it's him, right?
Yeah.
And only because I've done the research, only because I've done the research, and only because I vaguely know, I understand where this is going, right? But for your average fan, or for your average HBO Max viewer who has no idea, he does not come off looking good in this.
Let me throw something out there, and you tell me how this would compare to it. Breaking Bad, Walter White, from those first few episodes where he's the science teacher, part-time car wash employee,
pre-cancer Walter White,
versus when he becomes Heisenberg.
Oh God!
How do you think of Walter White now? Can your mindset be changed about a character over a few episodes, or that blows your mind, right? Because now you're like, well, maybe I'll forget about this Paul Westhead. He'll be a great coach, and
yeah, okay, I'll give you that, but I'll also say that first of all, that change takes over several seasons.
100% good point.
And that doesn't happen on a dime. And if it happened on a dime, I'd have a problem.
Yeah, absolutely
right?
true.
They did that. I mean, that show was 6 seasons long, 7 seasons long.
Took a long time to get to know him. And his change was gradual. Very
gradual, right? It was subtle. It went from, okay, I need to make, $200,000 so that I can put my kids through college, to I have $200 million. What do I do with it? I don't even know how to launder this.
He's killing everybody. He's killing everybody.
Right. To orchestrating murders, to building a minigun and a remote control to do it. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. But my thing is that we have 3 episodes left in this series.
Yeah.
How do you transition?
And you're going to. Yeah, it's tough to do.
Right. You have to, because unless you're going to really change the definition of dramatization and biopic, you're really, stressing stretching the truth of real life events, right?
Yeah. How do you think Magic Johnson's portrayed? If you're Magic, how do you feel about how you're coming off? Good, bad, indifferent, little of both?
So Magic, I think, is a special case. I think Magic becomes a special case because for a lot of people in our generation, and more importantly, slightly younger than us, who may not really know him for his basketball prowess, but know of him because he is a basketball legend, I think they identify him as the basketball player who had HIV more than they identify him as a basketball superstar, because I think Michael Jordan kind of swept in and kind of took that mantle, right? And did it decidedly better, in my opinion, right? Yeah. When you think of that and you're just like, okay, Magic Johnson, I know he's a good basketball player. I know that he's had HIV for a very long time. So he's a special case that, he, through whatever good athleticism, genes, care for his bodily regimen, he's been able to maintain his health regardless of that, right? And when you start thinking about it, you're just like, oh, he's also a basketball player from that era, so he must have slept around a lot. And, even in basketball players and even sports players today, there's always an undertone of like, well, he's clearly got to be a player. They're in a different city every night. It's very easy for them to cheat on other people. So in that sense, I don't think it did him a disservice. But I think that it's still a bit shocking or maybe jarring to actually see him be such a womanizer the way he was.
Yeah.
Right? Like, look in episode 7. He confesses his love for Cookie. He has this emotional reunion with her. And the moment she leaves out, there's another woman who was waiting in the bathroom putting on her bra come out. And it's just kind of, it would, to any other person, it would really sully that scene, right?
Yeah, I think the tough thing is, I agree that so if, in the womanizing observations, he is a little bit portrayed in that way, but to be honest, I don't find it like grotesquely so. And that scene with Cookie and the other woman, I think is the subtle thing was Cookie kind of like pushed him back, right? He said, "Hey, here's tickets, come see me." And remember, he had the party at his parents' house. And the friend came, but she didn't come, right? So I see kind of from, I'm going to take obviously the man's perspective on this, but from his perspective, he was like, hey, I tried. She said no. What am I supposed to do? I'm still a dude. I can date whoever I want. I didn't just catch up with her and, go on a date with her. She kind of rejected me. So I'm kind of okay with that scene, but I agree. The implication is that he's able to hop around a lot, and he wasn't like so into Cookie that he couldn't kind of like get with her friend. But I didn't find it was so negative.
Yeah, I think while you have that, the other side of that coin, which is maybe the Cookie's perspective is how can you possibly have this emotional need to want to be in a proper relationship with me when you've got another girl in the bathroom waiting in the wings to get out of there. And,
the whole, that didn't take long. Yeah.
Exactly. That's my point. I can get it. Maybe you don't pine for a year. Right. Maybe you don't pine for a month, but one day, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's all.
And I guess from Cookie's perspective, the implication is, she feels like a delivery pizza, right? Like, hey, I'm ready for you. Here's tickets. Come. You're not going to come? Okay, then I'm going to order something else, right? And I guess from her perspective, it would be, he's just so kind of impatient or demanding that it doesn't really indicate a serious commitment. It's just, hey, this is what I want now. And when he doesn't get it, he just is happy to move on. But apart from the womanizing, you make a very good point. I think his basketball is portrayed very well. And I think the other point you made earlier, when Kareem makes this observation to Magic's father about how happy he is.
Yeah, exactly.
He's really portrayed as a decent guy, kind of always happy, positive, like nothing really, he's portrayed in a positive way. Even his flaws, are somehow, like ascribed in a positive way. So if I were Magic, I would say, I'm not portrayed as a saint, but on average, I think I come across a lot better than almost anyone else in the show, right?
Yeah, I certainly would agree with that. I would say that the show is coming borderline close to him also being portrayed as someone who's naive.
Yes,
and or willfully ignorant.
Yeah, you're right. This thing with Dr. Day, is also a little bit off-putting, where Dr. Day, first of all, just the look and the feel of Dr. Day is intentionally sleazy, right?
Yeah.
And it really does seem like he's this guy who's just kind of like putting his arm around Magic, saying, hey, let's do this, and hey, you're doing great, my boy, and hey, let's do this, and kind of like manipulating him from transaction to transaction, like, hey, these shoes are not high quality. Don't worry about it. You're still making money. Hey, do this. It's good for you. Do this. It's good for you. So I see that he is portrayed as a little bit green, although to be fair, as a rookie in the NBA, maybe that's not untrue, but yeah, they definitely emphasize that a good bit. Yeah.
And I think and that willful ignorance is not just in terms of perhaps not just in terms of the commercial aspects of basketball, but maybe the social justice, the social justice or the socio-political aspect of being a black man in the 70s and 80s, right? And of course, it's difficult. We don't know what that's like for a variety of reasons. You get this sense from Kareem, like, he's not sad, but dour and a little depressive because he feels like he's bearing the weight of the plight of all black men in America, right? It just feels to me that he feels that way, and that he looks at someone like Magic, who should also be sharing that burden with him, maybe not, right? And he says, how is he so happy? Why is he able to ignore all of these things? Why can't I do that? It's a lot of problems to do that. I don't know.
That seems to be, I hear you on that, but that seems to be accurately representing what almost any workplace is like. I mean, just think of yourself. I mean, I'm sure you've been in a job or a position or a project where, like, you have this young intern or new joiner, and they're all gung-ho and optimistic about everything, and everything's so exciting, and they're going to do this. You're like, slow down, kid. Like, all of our clients are scummy. And you're kind of like this voice of, like, negative reason saying, like, just wait, this job will break you.
Give it a month.
Kind of slap that, like, the same thing, right? So I feel like that's a little bit realistic, that Kareem's a special case, of course, because he's a special player. But overall, he's been like, hey, I've been in this league a long time. I've been through contract negotiations. I've been through all this stuff that you've been through, fans, appreciating you and booing you and everything in between. You're new. Everything's great to you. Like, it just seems to be the difference in age and experience between those two. But I don't find that that's unlike almost any other, like, kind of job situation between someone who's a veteran and someone who's, young in that organization. And I think that's intentionally played up just to kind of show the difference between, the veteran Kareem and the rookie Magic Johnson.
Yeah. Perhaps I think that's also him kind of stepping into that mentorship position that his father is unable to provide for him while he's on the team, right? Because, there's that poignancy when he's talking to his dad. And he's kind of like, I'm relying on you to keep my son on the straight and narrow, as it were. Yeah. And maybe the implication is not so much on the straight and narrow of, like, womenizing and things like that, but maybe on the straight and narrow in terms of how he fits in society versus, you know what I mean? Like, it's a little bit bigger when I say straight and narrow. So,
I know that Kareem made this, wasn't happy with how he was portrayed. And he is portrayed as a little bit of a jerk. But overall, I feel like I don't really have a negative view of Kareem. He seems to be he's portrayed very intelligent, thoughtful, understands, a lot of, issues that extend beyond basketball and professional sports. Someone who's seems to be in a very serious and committed relationship overall. Apart from him just being a little bit like aloof and a jerk at the beginning, I can't really say that he's portrayed super negatively. They portray his, his religion in, I think, a very, very respectful and objective way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I have to say, if I'm Kareem, I'm not really sure how much better it could have been, I mean, he is a little bit of a complicated figure, right? I mean,
yeah.
I just don't see, like, there was no drug use, there was no alcohol, there's no womanization, there was no anything. He seemed to be a very devout Muslim who took his obligations seriously, who understood that there were bigger things outside of the game. I'm very competent, decent basketball player. Like, I'm not really sure, exactly what he would want differently if he were writing this show himself, I mean, I'm reading that, the complaints that he had. He said, bland characterization. The characters are crude stick figure representations that resemble real people the way Lego Han Solo resembles Harrison Ford. Each character is reduced to a single bold trait, as if the writers were afraid of anything more complex would tax the viewer's comprehension. Jerry Buss is egomaniac entrepreneur. Jerry West is crazed coach. Magic Johnson is sexual simpleton. I have to say, I feel like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar writing that is probably worse than anything that Magic got in the show. And then he says, I'm pompous prick. These are caricatures, not characters. I guess if I were Magic, I'd be like, you didn't really need to write that about me. I was actually okay with everything until you went on to defend me by, giving me this thing. So, I have to say, I don't think that Kareem's dissatisfaction is so legitimate, but Jerry West absolutely is right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it comes down to that. In that sense that, maybe he got the mild. Maybe it could also just be, look, I'm trying to protect my friends. Yeah. We were working together for 2 decades or 3 decades. But yeah, I think that the people who have legitimate, right to say something are the ones who haven't really said much.
They talk about he never threw, his championship trophy. He never had outbursts. He never had, any, personal issues against, trying to draft Magic Johnson. Like, I agree. He's really, really portrayed in almost every way very badly, right? That poor guy.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I think ultimately, it's interesting. It's the only reason, again, we're doing this emergency episode is because
it's an emergency. It's an emergency,
right? It's breaking news.
It is.
And it's a breaking news on a show that we're watching and on a show that we're enjoying. Yeah. I have to say, though, that because of this breaking news, I've started doing more research on each of the episodes in terms of what actually happened and to see how much of it is. Yeah. I have to admit I'm slightly disappointed with how much HBO has been changing the story to fit the dramatization. People coming off as weak or incompetent, people coming off as jerks, all of those kinds of things. The problem is the moment you do the slightest bit of digging, it kind of the facade kind of falls to shambles, right? Yeah. And it makes, as a biopic, it makes the show somewhat less compelling to me.
Yeah.
Right? Because when I think of shows and dramatizations or biopics, the ones that I like are something like, for me, I think one of the best biopic / based on real world dramatization of a show, of a sports thing, event was probably Moneyball.
I was just going to say it. I knew you were going to say Moneyball. Yes.
Yeah. I have a sneaking suspicion that if, when it all comes down to it, I think Moneyball is going to stand out for me as one of the best representations of a dramatization of real world events. It didn't deify anyone. It didn't negatively portray anyone to on purpose, or not so excessively. And when there was any negative portrayal, it was almost done to a comedic effect a little bit. So there was a little bit of this that way. And when if you got more interested and you did your own Googling or you were, you talked to a fan, you were just like, yeah, man, a lot of the story aligned with the movie. Whereas this, you're starting to see such tremendous gaps between the dramatization and reality where you're just like, at what point do you stop calling this a dramatization and just call it, like a fictional universe or a fictional timeline of your own making, right? Kind of like For All Mankind or for like Man in the High Castle, where you're taking something that happened and changing the history around it.
You're right. I think that's a very good point. I mean, it may be that the first cut of Winning Time wasn't really compelling. And they said, hey, wait a second, like, this is everyone's getting along really well. The team just started winning a lot of games. Like, no one's going to watch this. It's not interesting, right? And they said, go back and, get some dirt on your shoulders, right?
Yeah.
So
look,
so it sounds like you're changing it sounds like you're changing your rating a little bit.
Yeah, look, I don't think this is hurting the show because it's still immensely enjoyable to watch. I'm still enjoying it. I still think it's fun to watch. Some of the things that are funny are really laugh out loud funny. It's still a compelling show to watch. But it's, you know how we were talking in the last couple of weeks about me edging upwards or trending upwards from a mooch someone's password to a subscribe. And I thought that really in the next couple episodes I was going to get to a subscribe. I think I've come down a little bit.
Oh.
Again, I'm still enjoying the show a lot, but I'm getting, it's because this is calling itself a biopic, because this is calling itself a dramatization. I'm starting to see the potential cracks. And so I'm still sticking to my mooch. I still think that if you're a basketball fan, or even if you're not a basketball fan, but you're interested in the history of that era, I still think there's a lot of entertainment to be had and a lot of enjoyment to be had.
I'm staying at the same rating. I still think this is worth a subscribe. But I take all your criticisms to heart. And I have to say, I have a soft spot in my heart for people who are portrayed unfairly. I think that history can be unkind to people. And I also have a problem, to be honest, with people who are bullies who, if they are portrayed accurately, think that a lot of threats and other stuff is going to, be revisionist history. So I'm with you. I like things to be honest, and it upsets me when they're not either way. But still, I think the show is great. And I think even in the case of Jerry West, who's not portrayed great, I have to say, like, he still has some good redeeming qualities to me. So, I mean, I can't say that, like, I despise him as a human being because of the show. I think just the opposite. He looks like a very complicated man who's obviously got some, demons. But at the end of the day, he also seems like someone who really, really cares. And that's important to me as well. Definitely.
I 100% agree. So I think no one can look at him and fault him for his dedication.
Yep. Well said. So I think that wraps up our first ever emergency Films and Stuff podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode where we are talking about, what are we talking about? We're talking about competition.
Yes, that's right. We're going to talk about the streaming platforms. We're going to talk about some news developments there that just came out. We'll be also back to our regular
back to Halo, back to Moon Knight.
Halo and Moon Knight.
All right. So stay tuned. Join us thank you for joining us for the emergency podcast, Films and Stuff, and join us when we do a breakdown of all the different streaming platforms and the basic carnage which is going on in that industry, cutting the cord and downsizing a bit.
Indeed. Well said.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Enjoy
Ethan.
Winning Time.
Bye, guys.
Bye, Pete.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.